Hey everyone, welcome back to Topher Drives, where this week we have been living with the 2023 Porsche 911 Dakar. And it's been even more of a special week in this very special Porsche because I've got one of my best friends with me. Tedward is coming along with us for this video. And this is kind of the ultimate daily driver Porsche 911. So being that this is a Topher Drives video, what is the most fitting thing for us to do? We're gonna run a commute in the 911 Dakar and see if this is the solution. If you want a 911, but your office is in the middle of a very pothole-ridden city, like many of them are in Michigan. So
New England. We give Michigan so much crap, but like a lot of places have some pretty rough roads. But
yeah,
like,
what do you know about Michigan?
These roads are like, whoa. But the roads I drive every day, this is the car for it.
This is the car. So let's talk about the spec here and what makes the Dakar unique. This car is finished in shade green, which is not a paint to sample color, but you see a lot of these Dakars, a lot of the press photos, they're kind of pushing this color as the color to have. Additionally, we have standard rear wheel steering, and this has some borrowed pieces from other 911s. We have the cooling system from the 911 Turbo. We have the carbon fiber hood from the GT3. We've got unique tow hooks on this thing. We've got a unique rear spoiler. We've got some bash plates underneath. And this car is essentially a lifted 911 GTS with some other borrowed bits, which means we get the 3-liter turbocharged flat 6 with 473 horsepower and 420 pound-feet of torque. It's all-wheel drive, and even with this thing having all-terrain tires, it can do 0 to 60 in just over 3 seconds. And we just went out and filmed a video for Tedward's channel, and I experienced my first couple launch controls in this thing, and it's nuts. You would not believe the amount of grip this car has on these Pirelli Scorpion all-terrain tires. We have a 19-inch wheel in the front and a 20-inch wheel in the back, 295 section in the rear, and a 245 in the front. And I know Tedward appreciates the wheel design because they kind of like harken back to the old school Fuchs wheel with the black center and the chrome lip. Silver lip. Yeah.
They look just like my car.
Looks just like your car. So inside the Dakar, we do get standard carbon seats. You can option the sport seats, kind of just the standard seats, for a no cost addition, but these are what come in all of the Dakars as standard. This one has shade green stitching and a little bit of shade green on the dashboard as well. And the Dakar is a limited edition trim for the 911, so we have a little plaque on the dash here that says 911 Dakar. This is car number 329. So if you're watching this video in the future and you own car 329, well, here's a little bit of its history.
What I sincerely hope is the way that, let's say, 911R became a limited edition car.
Yeah.
And then eventually they said, hey, everyone wanted a manual transmission, and they gave us the 991.2 GT3 with a manual.
Yep.
It took a little bit of the specialness away from the 911R, but it democratized a manual GT3 experience again. I hope that there's going to be something like a 911D where they'll make a car for the people.
That would be cool.
A limited edition. It may not have quite as extreme things, but it'll be the pothole savvy sports car of your dreams.
Or the 911P, the pothole edition.
The pothole
yes.
edition.
So we can't really see anything in the back here, just a couple of cooling fans, but we will pop it for you and show you anyways. Why not? These fans are running because we just got done driving. Got a place to add oil back here, but Porsche kind of figures you're just going to take this thing to the dealer to service it, so you don't really get much access in the back. And I always feel like I'm shutting these wrong and I'm going to get yelled at in the comments.
Let them yell.
Let them yell. In the front, I mentioned we have the carbon hood from the GT3, and not only is this lightweight, but it also helps with our cooling. We have a couple vents in here. And as a Porsche owner, I'm embarrassed that I haven't gotten this frunk open yet. There we go. Okay, so pretty decent space in here. And if you are using this car as a daily to commute, whatever, and you don't want to use the lack of rear seats for storage, you've got a little room up here for grocery shopping, or I'm sure Porsche will sell you a very nice luggage set that would fit in the frunk as well. So let's get this shut. We'll show you the interior, we'll jump on the road, show you what it's like to drive in a little bit of a spirited fashion. We'll jump on the highway, see what it's like to daily drive, and we'll end downtown, test maneuverability, and everything else. So,
hey, before we do you want me to get in and put the lift up?
Yes, okay, yeah. So let's talk.
Stand there. Here, I bet you have to have the door.
The doors probably have to be closed. So actually, yeah, I am realizing now I didn't talk about ground clearance. In its low form, like it is right now, We've got just about 6.3 inches of ground clearance, so about 2 more than the GTS in which it's based. But if you press the button on the dash to raise the hydraulic suspension, as Tedward has just done for us, we get 7.5 inches of ground clearance here in this Dakar, so 3 inches higher than a standard 911. So you can go over all sorts of things in your commute, or if you run over the odd curb in the Starbucks drive-thru, it's not going to completely ruin your car and cause like $5,000 worth of damage. You may just have to replace a wheel or something.
This is the dream lift kit.
It is.
We always have a nose lift, right? And this is good in high mode up to 105 miles an hour.
Yes, that's right.
Usually you go over the train tracks in your Lamborghini, you lift it up and at like 14 miles an hour, it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Calm it down there.
This is like, send it.
Yes.
Send it all the way.
So we normally only have the hydraulic front end lift, but this is all 4 corners, and it's kind of meant for like high-speed sand rail, you know, sort of thing. So you can absolutely blast through the sand dunes with this car at high speeds, and that's kind of the point, as it's kind of in the name, Dakar. We also get an active exhaust here on the 911 Dakar, and Tedward just so graciously demonstrated both modes for us there. It's not an offensive exhaust note when you're in sport, but wakes it up just enough and lets you know that that flat 6 is right behind you. Okay, cool. Should we go for a drive?
I can't wait.
Okay, let's go. Like any 992, 911, we have these silly little door handles that pop out. And they aren't real door handles, though they do move. They are electronic. We have Dakar door sills, which are full of sand, which tells me that this car has probably been off-road at some point. It wasn't us.
Luke, it wasn't us.
Luke, it was not us, but looks like somebody maybe had it off-road at some point. And in the center console, a York peppermint patty.
Thank you to Nabs.
Yes, exactly. So let's jump into these carbon seats. And again, once we're in here, the story is pretty much the same as far as 992s go. There's nothing really unique in here apart from these couple of buttons on the dash. Actually, really just one button on the dash to raise our suspension. Otherwise, we have the exhaust, we have our Porsche dynamic chassis control button right here, and then we have our Dakar plaque on the dash that I showed you earlier. On the console, our Braun shaver shifter isn't as harsh as it usually is, and maybe that's to prevent you from cutting yourself while shaving.
Yeah,
but we've got a little bit of leather going on here. So also, this has kind of inspired a bunch of other cars in the Volkswagen Auto Group lately. Like the Atlas now has a shifter like this, the GTI and the Golf R. None of them are quite as large as this, but
no, but it's funny because the GT3 still gets a thunk, and the GT4 RS gets like a proper shift handle, but it does the job.
It does the job. This controls our 8-speed PDK, and power is sent to all 4 wheels. So let's get these windows up. Let's get a little bit more airflow in here. I am a little bit sweaty.
God bless.
Is there a way to sync the climate control that isn't in the menu, or do you just 2-finger it? We'll just 2-finger it for today, I guess. This car as spec'd is about 230 grand. It's a pretty modest spec overall. We've only got about 10,000 in options on this thing, which is hilarious for a Porsche because you can put, I don't know, probably $150,000 worth of options on this car.
I see this as sort of like the same way people buy 911 Ts, where the Carrera T, it's meant to be a little strippery.
Yeah.
And like this car comes with all the goodies that you wanted, so you don't have to go make it nuts, and you don't probably even want to get a PTS color because you're hopefully going to drive it in a bunch of ugly rocks and sand and stuff and maybe just tear it up.
And they do offer a number of different liveries for this car as well that kind of harken back to some of the iconic Porsche schemes like the Rothmans, the what's it called?
The Martini.
Martini, yep, the Martini livery, and you know, a number of different paint to sample options as well. We have a optional white tack gauge as well as our Sport Chrono painted in white as well. That's like just silly little Porsche things that I notice and when I read the spec sheet, just little personalization options. This car has the optional 360 camera, which is pretty decent, and it's nice for pulling it into my garage because it's a little bit of a tight space, and honestly, I don't discriminate when it comes to 360 cameras. It can be any size. You know, you could give me a Fiat 500 and I would be happy to have a 360 camera. So that's always nice to have. I would like for it to be standard, especially on a car like the Dakar, but you know, Porsche, they don't really give you much standard. So there are our front and rear cameras. using the Braun to put us there into drive. Move the seat back just ever so slightly. Of course, we have manual seats in this Dakar. And right off the bat, you don't feel like you're not in a 911. This is still very unapologetic 911. But then you go over a speed bump at 7 miles an hour and it's fine. You don't have to worry about angling, scraping, anything like that. And try not to hit any birds. And all is well. And that's kind of the beauty of cars like the Dakar and the Sterrato. And I hope this trend kind of sticks, because they're marketed as these super hardcore off-roaders that, you know, you can go to the sand dunes and run 105 miles an hour. But where they really make a lot of sense is just in situations like these. Number of different drive modes here in the Dakar: wet, normal, sport, rally, and off-road. We'll run in sport for this section just to show you some of the performance on-road, that is. We can also put our 8-speed PDK into manual mode and use these steering wheel mounted paddle shifters. There's something about the way these paddle shifters feel that partner so well with this 8-speed PDK and just make you hate every other transmission. Porsche has got this so dialed in. They've been perfecting these PDKs now for 15 years or so. And while this car is still extremely satisfying to drive, it doesn't necessarily egg you on to constantly be driving it quickly. But if you want to drive it quickly, pretty quickly find the limits of those Pirelli all-terrain tires, but this thing corners pretty dang flat, even when you're in the lifted suspension mode. We've been driving this thing around all morning, and you know, we'll hit a corner like that and we'll look down and be like, oh my gosh, we were in lifted mode for that, and it felt no different. So it just goes to show that when Porsche builds a car, they don't mess around. Everything is dialed in. You're not going to have anything that makes you think, oh crap, when you're going around a corner. I mean, it's just, it's pure insanity the way that they're able to kind of just tune out any sort of imperfections.
I think you just beat my high score.
Did I? 1.13. Oh goodness.
So proud of you.
Thank you. Pulling 1.13 G.
It's so much torque. That's weird because the numbers don't add up. When you say 420 pound-feet of torque, like that is not a scary number to me. But this car scoots.
It does.
Porsche numbers are so underrated. They are always complete BS. They are. This car's faster than whatever the numbers say.
I just like downshifting it. It's very satisfying.
It's weird because I'll sit here and praise PDK for being the best in the business and make me envy it whenever I'm not in one. And yet I will elect to shift manually because I just want to play with the paddles.
Exactly. But even when you take it out of manual mode, the shifts smooth out, and they still happen pretty much exactly when you want them to. Even in sport mode, this car isn't holding gears for an absurd amount of time. We're gonna put this back into normal drive mode, turn off the loud exhaust, and we'll hit the highway and see what this thing is like on your normal sort of afternoon, I guess, commute. What time is it right now? I have no concept. 2:30, okay. Merging on the highway with the merging tutorial guy in the passenger seat, so let's hope I do this right. Thank you. Obviously, merging is no problem when you have almost 500 horsepower under your right foot. Granted, you're not really going to be using that all the time, but gets you up to speed just fine and smoothly. In 8th gear on the highway, 78 miles an hour. We're revved under 2,000 RPM, so I imagine you're able to be quite efficient. Do you know the highway fuel economy rating for this car?
I think it's 24 miles per gallon.
24? Okay, so that's not so bad. Give you guys a second to observe our NVH. Go for a pass. And instantly, you go from 8th gear to 4th gear. I mean, faster than you can even think. Super uneven sections of road, and the Dakar just doesn't care. It's a little bit loud on these all-terrains, but it's not as loud as the Sterrato, I don't think.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
And the Sterrato, I definitely noticed more road noise on those Bridgestone Duelers.
Definitely. Just got our sort of normal Porsche cruise control stalk down here to the left of the steering wheel. I like cruise control stalks that kind of exist away from the steering wheel. I grew up driving a Lexus IS300 that had the cruise control coming off the side of the wheel, so it's kind of just what I prefer. So what about actually sitting in this car? Well, I can't talk to the 18-way sport seat option, but even in these carbon seats, it's not so bad. And I think what Porsche's done really well is they've kind of made other things soft. And I'm sure this goes beyond the Dakar to other 992 911s, but as far as elbow comfort goes, super nice. You've got a good amount of squish here on the door panel. You've got a good amount of squish on the center console. Driver's footwell is pretty nice as well. I don't feel cramped, and sitting next to my colleague here, I don't feel like we're really, uncomfortably close. You've got enough room over there in your area. Looks like we'll get a small taste of some traffic impressions here, but this traffic is for the highway that we are currently exiting, so.
83 degrees and this AC is blowing ice cold.
It is. Oh my gosh, it feels so nice.
Very nice.
Something important in stop and go like this is tuning of the throttle as well as braking, because you don't want to be throwing yourself through the windshield and throwing yourself through the back windshield when you are in stop and go traffic. And Porsche, even despite this car being a dual clutch, PDK, they've got that all figured out, but you're able to very, very smoothly drive this car in traffic, which is always nice to have a sports car that isn't, beating the crap out of you.
Did you see it do its little windshield wiper hiccup?
No. Okay. Yeah. We've been noticing.
that.
Yeah, we've been noticing today that the windshield wipers have been kind of changing position here and there, like moving up and down the windshield an inch.
It'll just pop up. You'll find it in the replay, and it's really interesting. And every 992 I've been in, I think, does this, and I still don't have a great explanation for it.
Yeah, we've had some weird things with some of the 992s that the TheTopher and I have shared here in Michigan. Usually they have like a weird passenger door rattle. And the way we've solved it is by stuffing a Gatorade bottle into the door pocket, and it kind of acts as the rattle. So it's something down by your speaker location there that ultimately rattles. But this car seems pretty stout. I mean, I haven't really noticed, besides the carbon seats creaking when you go around corners, or even you can hear it a little bit there. Otherwise, everything seems super well put together in this Dakar. Every Dakar gets the GT Sport steering wheel. You're able to opt for either leather or Race Tex. And while Race Tex is pretty attractive when the car is brand new, if you're keeping the car long term, go for the leather. Race Tex kind of just becomes like a sweaty gym sock after you use it for about 5,000 to 10,000 miles. And I know there's kits out there to clean it, but leather is going to hold up the best for you. So it's nice that you get the choice for your steering wheel. But even going beyond that, I think that's about to be a crash. I think currently Porsche has the best steering wheel design. It feels the best in the hands. It's gorgeous, and I'm a little bit nervous on what they're going to do next, because I don't know how they'd ever really be able to improve the steering wheel design. But we'll enjoy it while we have it. It's mighty good, yes.
Yeah, this car only has about 3,900 miles on it, and even the passenger side door handle with this Alcantara on it, it's already worn. And I'm thinking, how frequently has a passenger been in this vehicle, or how terrified were they that they were sweating on this, that they had to hold on to it? Which totally understand if someone was off-roading it or jumping it or whatever. But I mean, of all the pieces in this car that you would think would not be worn, the passenger side Alcantara you'd think would be pretty fresh.
Right.
It just goes quick.
It does. I think Race Tech's is kind of best suited to things like A-pillar, headliner, things you don't touch, because it does look very nice. It kind of dresses up the cabin, and I would say maybe you could even get away with doing the visors because you don't really often touch the visors. But anything you're touching on a daily basis, steering wheel, door pulls, no. On Topher Drives, I strive to give you guys the real world living with videos, and what's more real world than going 10 miles an hour around an entrance ramp at 2 p.m.
Yeah, this is pretty authentic.
This is so authentic. I don't know. It could be...
Wait, let me talk to your audience for a second. Would you guys watch this? Because I could do this all day for hours. I mean, I don't really want to, but if you watch this, I'll make it. It's very easy to find heavily trafficked areas and just drive slowly.
This is like always the route that I drive for my commute videos, and every once in a while, even at 2 p.m., you get a little bit of congestion like this, and that's why I go and I do the little spirited section at the beginning of the video, because then if I hit something like this, it's like not the end of the world.
Right. There it did.
It just did it again. If we didn't catch it the first time, we have it that time.
Phantom wipers.
And this is why there's traffic, because we should be going up there is
You're
the
in
thing.
a Porsche. Why don't you just do it?
Okay.
If they're gonna look at this car and think you're a jerk anyway, you might as well just
just be a jerk.
Just use the road correctly. He's full send.
All right, well, we've only got about a minute of highway left, but I would say overall highway manners are pretty nice on the Dakar. The only thing that I noticed earlier, and this is something that people ask me a lot, is what's it like when you give it a small steering input on the highway? And the Dakar is a little bit twitchy if you're making small adjustments, but I mean, if you're able to just kind of position yourself like a normal person, you should be okay. At the end of the day, it's still a Porsche 911. It's still going to be extremely accurate, so just keep that in mind. A little bit of whine on deceleration there from those Pirelli all-terrains.
It's incredible. The engine disappeared.
Oh yeah. It gets so quiet when you're in quiet mode on decel. All right, we got to do just a second of important research here and see what it sounds like under a bridge. You know, this is tradition when we get off on this exit. I'd say that's a pass.
Can we just talk about how you can brake over imperfections and it doesn't destroy the car?
There's no, ABS isn't cutting in, the car's not freaking out
This is
over
insane.
imperfections. It's wild.
Please make more of these.
Downshifting this PDK into first gear, just as smooth as anything else. And they're kind of a mature paddle, which means you don't go on Instagram and see videos of big tattooed men shifting gear like this.
You gotta make this face. You gotta put your tongue in your lower lip and go. It's a whole process. Sponsored by Zin.
I think we just picked a busy day for Ann Arbor. I don't know what's up.
But I don't feel anxious. I don't.
No.
It's fine at low speed. Sometimes you get in cars like you're in a Lamborghini and it's like this, and you're like, "Ugh," like let me go.
Yep.
I don't feel like that in this car. It kind of just feels chill. It's like it's a psycho car and a regular car at the same time.
That's the thing, and that's what's so nice about this, is it isn't constantly egging you on to be at full throttle. You can very, very comfortably drive this car. Even in manual mode, I'm still engaged enough and happy to be shifting these gears going 42 miles an hour.
Very different approach to the Porsche situation and taking an obnoxiously wide turn. Was he about to hit us?
I was like, what is... He was trying to make the Taycan Dakar, the collab.
I mean, you know that's coming, right?
Oh, yeah.
Dakar, all of the things.
Yes. So this is where the road starts to get pretty narrow and bumpy. And generally when I'm coming down here, even in, you know, just sort of regular cars like Civic Si, Elantra N, whatever else, I'm kind of dodging all of these potholes, but I'm embracing it here in the Dakar. We've got the sidewall, we've got the ground clearance. Why not use it?
Well, I'm thinking if we go to get lunch, we could go anywhere.
Yes.
I'm not thinking about, oh, the entrance to this
Yep.
chicken place is rough.
Yep.
I just don't think about it because I have this. Whereas, like, when we do have some special cars, you might think, oh, I wish I had access to that, but it's really limiting. We can't even go to the places that we like to go running because the parks might have some gravel or dirt or imperfections, and we're not taking this off-road, don't worry.
Yep.
But it's not going to scare me if I had to drive a quarter mile on something a little uneven. It's very uncool when you're in like a Lamborghini and you're like, oh, guess we have to do a U-turn and go around because we can't go here.
Absolutely. We'll do a tiny bit of maneuverability here, which with the Dakar is fantastic. The turning radius is excellent if you're somewhere where U-turns are legal, like where this car is from. It does have a Florida license plate, so I'm sure it's used to doing U-turns. But we're gonna wrap up our video today in the parking structure, and we'll see how she does. Visibility is pretty good. The only thing that limits you a bit is sitting so low down in this carbon seat. You are able to raise it though with this power adjustment, which is nice. But in every other situation, I do prefer to sit pretty low. God, that rear wheel steering is just the best. All right, let's see.
Please select an event from the screen menu.
Can I reach?
You're gonna block arms too.
I did it. I did it.
I don't think I can do that.
You can see parking sensors, cameras come on automatically when you're near curbs, which is nice. Oh yeah. You honestly have to be careful you don't turn this thing too fast because it changes direction so quickly. Ooh, it does good parking structure noise too. These gears are pretty long, even though it's an 8-speed. Alright, let's take this auto manual mode and see what the car decides is an appropriate gear. Probably second.
911 emergency only.
That's kind of us.
Huh.
The emergency 911.
Yeah. This is the apocalypse 911.
It really is.
I don't care what anyone says. This is the fastest 911.
Oh yeah. From one end of town to the other, this is the fastest 911.
I will challenge anyone to race me in a GT3 RS. I'll drive this. I will get there before you with the least number of claims.
Yes, that's right. Cool. All right, guys. Well, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for us today. I mean, you've got the idea of this thing. I don't really need to summarize it anymore. It's done everything we've needed of it today and more, and it's just the do anything Porsche, and I hope this trend continues. I'm glad Porsche and Lamborghini have kind of started this out, and I'm hoping to see other companies like Nissan maybe do the Safari Z, or like, I don't know, maybe Toyota can do a lifted GR86 or something, you know, like kind of obtainable versions of these cars, a Safari Miata. And it's kind of like, this was all sort of fan created because people have been making Safari Porsches for years.
Tuttle, Leakeen, these things exist.
Yes.
People pay big money, they wait in big old lines to get their air-cooled 911s, and this car is proof. that Porsche listens to its fans.
Yes, absolutely. All right, well, we'll park. We'll show you the parking cameras. That'll be a wrap for our permission to say cheeky little commute in the 911 Dakar.
Fully granted.
Cool. All right. I was not even close to being lined up
Doesn't matter. You have
correctly
rear
for the
steer.
spot, but
You
we
can
have
do
rear
anything-
steer, which means we're in it.
you
Oh
can
my
do
gosh.
anything you want.
Into park with the button. We'll use our little switch over here to shut the car off, which they got rid of in the newest generation Cayenne. And I know that that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the 911, but I hope that these stick around forever in the proper, 911 Cayman Boxster, everything like that. So cool. Well, let's hop out, give you one last look at it. Do you have any final thoughts you want to share?
I just think it's so cool, and I think that when it came out, it looked like it could have possibly become a money grab for, oh yeah, we threw on this other suspension. This car is a really well-rounded package, and I find myself really enjoying being in it. I'm frustrated that it's a limited edition because I want this to be part of the regular lineup and repertoire of 911, but look, they've made so many variants. It's not impossible that this becomes a regular thing in some way. So fingers crossed, we want this, we like it, and the worse American roads get, the more important this car becomes.
That's right. Cool. All right, let's show you this shade green 911 one last time, and that will wrap it up for us today. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. Tedward and I have been living with this thing for a couple of days, so if I left anything out, I will be happy to answer those for you. But that will wrap it up for us today. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.